The Justice League is debatably the most iconic superhero team in all of fiction, alongside the Avengers, and this superpowered roster has seen many different lineups and adaptations since the inception back in the 60s. However, I've got to be honest, the Justice League that we got in Suicide Killed the Justice League is downright awful and disrespectful to these beloved characters and the source material, not only due to poor writing, but also due to how downright awful they are, which I want to talk about. And no, I'm not going to be discussing the Suicide Squad themselves in this video, however I will be going into their interactions with the League members, and also going into some plot points in the game, so consider this your spoiler warning. Starting with John Stewart, aka the Green Lantern, and this is probably the best of the worst in my opinion. We get glimpses of all these heroes prior to Brainiac's mind control in the game, and thankfully there was nothing overly terrible about Lantern before the conditioning. He's clearly inspirational and kind, upholding the traditional iron will and honour that you'd expect from Green Lanterns. Fast forward to the events of the game, however, and, well, he's a complete idiot. A reoccurring theme you'll notice with these characters is how powerful they show to be, yet how incompetent they perform against the squad members just to progress the plot. I hate resorting to plot armor as an argument, but how exactly do you defend this shit? Green Lantern effortlessly traps all the Suicide Squad members simultaneously with his constructs, taking them for a wild ride around the ruins of Metropolis before engaging the Flash in a 1v1 and fucking wins, incapacitating Barry. Yet somehow these four fuckers beat him? How? Yes, they do gain gadgets that help break the Lantern constructs later in the story, but I mean, just look at the boss fight. I'm aware that using gameplay as valid evidence to justify canon events is a false equivalence, but this shit is on point. Even though they can counter the constructs themselves, that doesn't stop John from raining down death upon them. The Green Lantern ring is only limited by the user's willpower and imagination. He can create dozens of missiles, turrets, shields, mines, artillery barrages, etc., in addition to canonically being able to beat the Flash, as I just said. There is honestly no chance that 3 humans and a shark beat Lantern, even if they have a couple of gadgets on hand. Sadly, another reoccurrence between the deaths of these beloved characters is that there's almost no reverence or respect for these superheroes who dedicated their lives to save the planet on a plethora of occasions, with John Stewart being a member of not only the Justice League, but essentially the closest thing to a universal police force. Yet he gets disrespected constantly by Deadshot, only to then be executed on the spot by Floyd, before finally being shown dead like any normal human man, in his underwear no less. Yeah, because that would be totally acceptable if the genders were reversed, although I don't know what I was expecting, to be honest. After all, this is the same game that simps for Wonder Woman despite her being a complete moron, spoiler alert, and features Harley Quinn grabbing Deadshot's arse anyway. Speaking of Mr. Barry Allen, let's tackle the Flash next. I was very surprised to discover that he shares the same voice actor as Heimdall from God of War Ragnarok, and after discovering that, well, I can't unhear it. Every single fucking time this speedy twat opens his mouth, it's always some "your mom" level of snarky dialogue, which would have been just fine as an over-exaggeration of Barry's personality, as he is known to make wisecracks and to be the light-hearted member of the League. However, the cringy dialogue and quips from both the heroes and villains in this game ruin any chances of that being possible or entertaining. Without the conditioning, Flash is once again pretty good, and has a level of warmth and humour that wouldn't be out of place from the comic books, and thankfully he does have a few good moments in the game prior to being controlled. Unlike the other 3 members who were controlled prior to the game's events, Barry managed to evade capture significantly longer, and even saved the Suicide Squad on at least 2 occasions in the story before being ultimately subjected to Brainiac's conditioning. Once under the mind control, well, he suffers the same problems as Superman and Lantern, just this incredibly powerful, damn near omnipotent threat in the context of humans trying to beat the League, and we see visible evidence of this power multiple times. He runs so fast he can outrun time itself, as he states. He can turn intangible and invisible to the naked eye. He effortlessly dodges any attack thrown his way by the squad members in their first encounter, and even breaks free from the grip of Wonder Woman, and points out that simply running with these with these criminals at such a velocity would melt the flesh off their bones. Flash in this state clearly isn't against killing either. He states on a plethora of occasions all the fucked up things he's going to do to the squad, and he even rips out Lex Luthor's heart and jokes about it. Yet once again, when it comes to actually carrying out these threats, he sucks. Even when he has the squad on their knees and almost knocked down for the count, he continues running circles around them for some reason, literally before Diana appears and saves them. And yes, just like with Green Lantern, the Suicide Squad do acquire anti-Speed Force technology to counter the Flash, in addition to Captain Boomerang getting his hands on a device that lets him run at similar speeds to that of speedsters. Yet even so, Barry 100% had no reason not to kill these guys earlier on in the story, when he had multiple opportunity to do so, with Flash's death having a flicker of remembrance from King Shark before, nope, Boomerang pisses on his corpse, and for the Suicide Squad to then make a dick joke.
Yeah, who wrote this shit again?
Before we even talk about Wonder Woman, I think I should bring up how Lex Luthor, one of the smartest minds on the planet, has nothing but undying praise and love for not just Diana, but her entire species, and believes wholeheartedly that if humanity were to work alongside the Amazons, that the Earth would be a much better place, as he views them as being the golden standard, and capable of solving things such as
toxic masculinity.
Ah yes guys, don't worry. War, famine, disease, natural disasters? Nah, none of those compared to the real problems that humanity faces. Toxic Well, Mr. Luthor, even if that was true, I've got one question to ask. How drunk were you when you wrote that? Because Diana in this game is a fucking terrible individual, with questionable actions at best, and at no point lives up to the golden standard you held for her. Immediately after the Batman, Superman and Lantern are lost to Brainiac's control, Diana is filled with despair and doesn't know what to do to help her friends. Some role model you've got there, Lex. She doesn't even engineer kryptonite weapons until the events of the game, something that should be priority number one when Superman of all people has gone rogue. She's powerful just like her teammates, as she effortlessly takes down the squad when she finds them in the Hall of Heroes. Not sure why she can do it and not her male counterparts who are under mind control and clearly aren't against the whole killing thing, but
never mind, I must be looking too deeply into this.
Her attitude towards the Suicide Squad in general is also just infuriating. She constantly berates them about how she's wasting time dealing with the squad, and if that's the case, then why don't you just tie them up or lock them up somewhere? You can tag the Flash and keep up with a mind-controlled Superman, not to mention effortlessly beat the Suicide Squad all in a fight almost at the same time. Fairly certain you could have done that at any point if you actually cared. She also doesn't believe they are capable of any good whatsoever, regarding them as nothing but common criminals. Diana, please ask yourself, what are you doing? The Justice League has been compromised, with characters like Superman and Batman working for essentially an extraterrestrial conqueror. Fairly certain you need all the help you can get, especially when one member of the squad is a literal demigod. Yet Diana completely shoots the idea of working with the Suicide Squad down multiple times, preferring to capture them instead in a shipping container of all things, and to toss them into Lois Lane's building, rather than to accept their offer of teamwork to bring down the Rogue League members. Even after Green Lantern's death and Superman comes onto the scene, she still opts to go it alone, despite the squad verbatimly telling her otherwise. Diana, your priorities and prejudice towards these criminals is borderline petty at this point. It's common sense that 5v1ing Justice League members would be the better option for all parties, including, you know,
humanity.
The Suicide Squad later find Wonder Woman forging a shield made of green kryptonite to prepare for Superman. Not sure why she couldn't have done this in the 3 weeks sooner between the conditioning and the events of the game, but hey, better late than never, I guess. I'm not sure what's worse about this cutscene, to be honest. The fact that King Shark, who isn't the sharpest tool in the shed, is morally in the right towards his criticisms of Diana's actions, or that Wonder Woman's immediate response is to throw a racist remark towards King Shark, even though he was in the right.
Gold standard race.
Although I guess it doesn't matter when a woman does it.
Wait, who said that again?
Sadly, it doesn't even end there. as Diana in her fight against Superman barely demonstrates any of her centuries of combat experience against him, instead resorting to bashing his head in with the new shield, kinda like how me or you would bash a controller in after losing a game of Smash Bros. In addition to her death being very interesting, as it's the only one where the Suicide Squad actually show any sympathy towards the fallen superheroine. And yes, in case you need reminding, Barry Allen, the guy who saved them twice from Batman and Green Lantern respectively, gets his corpse pissed on, yet Diana, who is a complete bitch towards them all, especially King Shark, gets a completely emotional death scene, and somehow the squad feel obligated to defend her.
I'm sure you know where I'm going with this.
Now, I don't want to give off the wrong impression here. Once again in holograms, Diana is perfectly fine, just like the other members, and she certainly had potential to be great. However, given the fact that she's the only member to not be corrupted, the world is now fully depending on her, and given that she's lived for centuries of years, I feel like she makes so many dumb decisions in this game, and her actions are immature at best given what's at stake. I'm not going to go into Batman too much here, as I myself have yet to play the Arkham games, and as a result I don't deem myself qualified to talk about him in detail. However, if the general YouTube reception is anything to go off of, Batman is likely the character who was done dirty the most. In this game specifically, questions need to be asked about how these four weirdos are going to stand any chance against the Caped Crusader, who once again demonstrated he was on another tier in terms of power, knocking them all out one by one in a meticulous manner, demonstrating his brains, and he would have killed them all had Flash not intervened, with Bruce then going on to beat the ever-living shit out of the Flash. This is clearly not some normal Batman that they're dealing with, and all of that isn't even factoring in the fear toxin variant he has access to in his boss fight, which somehow the Suicide Squad are able to resist, to the extent that Harley ends up developing her own fear toxin to use against Batman. To my fucking horror, this actually works far too well against Bruce, something that is dumb as shit, since even I know that in the finale of Arkham Knight, it shows that Batman overcomes the many doses of the fear toxin by simply not being afraid of anything and overcoming fear itself. And after somehow defeating debatably the strongest version of Batman we've seen in the games, who is also willing to kill, they openly mock him about his childhood trauma and take the absolute piss out of him, disrespecting the guy who Harley even admits is a good person underneath the cowl, as he indirectly saved her from the abusive relationship of the Joker, before they execute him on the spot. Unfortunately, as if this wasn't bad enough, the way they tarnished Kevin Conroy's penultimate performance as Batman is just horrible in bad faith, as they thank him after the credit sequence, dedicating a little tribute to him, before immediately throwing live service shit down your throats with loot boxes and things of the like. Damn, Rocksteady, the Incredible Hulk is more subtle than that. Finally, we have the Man of Steel, Superman himself. Once again, he's great in the flashback holograms, and it's as if he flew right out the pages of the comic books. However, that's where the positives stop. Superman in this game is a complete idiot even before the conditioning, and he is the entire reason why Brainiac was as successful as he was. This motherfucker arrives in a ship looking like a skull, yet Superman is completely okay throwing caution to the wind in the pursuit of showing good faith, despite Batman and Wonder Woman being adamantly against this choice, referring to it as reckless as stupid. I've actually got to agree with the developers on that one. It is pretty stupid, and it's the one thing Superman absolutely would not do, of all people. Something that never set right with me is how inconsistent Kal-El's weakness to kryptonite is. During the fight with Wonder Woman, simply holding the stuff against his chest is enough to make him drop to his knees, yet later on in the same fight, being impaled in the chest with the stuff, he shrugs off like it's nothing, and his heat vision somehow gets stronger from this, before he kills Diana. There are theories about how the conditioning made them stronger. It also made Clark resistant to kryptonite as a result. However, that can't be true, since the stuff still clearly affects him, yet magically no longer bothers him when the plot calls for it. This once again brings up the question of how the squad are going to deal with Superman now that Wonder Woman is dead and he's supposedly resistant to the one exploitable weakness he has. But no worries guys, the plot comes up with more bullshit to answer that one. The Suicide Squad arm themselves with gold kryptonite to take on Superman, yet even in the cutscene where Clark shares no sense of loss for Batman, which is stupid since these characters still feel emotion beneath the conditioning, Boomerang throws a gold kryptonite boomerang at Clark, which clearly still affects him as we see, but not enough as he uses his heat vision to instantly disintegrate the mineral that he's weak to. If you can do this, Mr. Man of Steel, then why aren't you doing it to the squad? The kryptonite still affects you in large enough quantity, and these guys are literally dressed in the stuff. Yet you don't heat vision all of them, you don't fly them up to the sun, which you have shown you can do even under the effects of gold kryptonite. The answer, dear viewer, is no. Superman just flies around like a moron, making puns about his powers, mocking the Suicide Squad and saying all the nasty things he's going to do to them. A small reality check for you, Clark. These four, through sheer plot armor and dumb luck, have beaten 3 of the most powerful characters on the planet, and have your weakness at hand in large quantity. You might want to kill them? Ah, who am I kidding? They finish him off and have nothing but euphoria to the fact that they have ended Superman. The Man of Steel, the Man of Tomorrow, symbol of hope within not just Metropolis but also the entire planet, and his death has as much respect as the other League members.
And by that I mean fuck all.
In conclusion, the treatment to these characters got is unbelievable and serves a pretty poor story which doesn't even end in a realistically shitty way, i.e. the Justice League wins every fucking time. And that's not even taking into account Brainiac that the squad still have to beat, and yet they somehow still beat him. Oh yeah, I didn't even cover the story in great detail in this video, or even touch the Suicide Squad. Yet don't take my word for it. Check out the other videos and forums on the internet, basically trashing on this game for one reason or another. Now, if you enjoyed this project, then, well, more power to you. I'm glad some people got something noteworthy from this train wreck of a game. However, it certainly isn't for me, and I will never replay it ever again. What's going on, guys? It's Rift, and I apologize for being so negative in this video, but hey, this game pissed me off. But this is just a one-off, but if you do want to see more videos where I go on a rant, feel free to drop your ideas down in the comment section. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel as it helps me out a lot. You know, like the video. If you want to join the Discord server and chat to us outside of videos, that's awesome. The links are all in the description down below. Thanks, guys, and as always, I hope you have a great rest of your day.